quite often in true crime, you'll be hearing a story and be like, I've heard this one before. And it could be that you have heard that specific story before. Or it could be that the crime is so similar to another case that you have essentially heard it before, just with different names. For today's case, I would ask you to suspend judgment, as by the end, stereotypes and assumptions will be turned on their heads. We'll be heading to Arkansas just this past summer, and to the ominously named Devil's Den State Park. This is Murder of Crows. Devil's Den State Park sits in the northwest corner of Arkansas, nestled deep in the Ozark Mountains, where the terrain shifts from gentle hills to jagged limestone formations carved across millennia. Spanning more than 2,500 acres, the park is a study in contrasts. In summer, sunlight barely penetrates the thick canopy of oak and hickory. Trails wind through narrow crevices between ancient rock faces, past caves that stay cool even in the August heat, and alongside creeks that run clear and cold. The park takes its name from local legend. Stories passed down through generations about strange occurrences in the hollows and caves. Some say Confederate deserters hid here during the Civil War. Others whisper about outlaws who used the caves as hideouts. But the name always has a hint of danger wrapped up within its natural beauty. But for decades, the danger only existed in the stories that would get told around campfires. Devil's Den was known for its scenic vistas, excellent rock climbing, and family-friendly trails. The range of trails from beginner-friendly to expert level ensured that there was something for everyone. On any given weekend, especially during the summer, you might find young couples on first camping trips, retirees hiking the moderate loops, families introducing their children to the outdoors. The Devil's Den Trail, where the Brink's family chose to hike on a particular July afternoon, was particularly popular. A 1.5 mile loop with moderate difficulty, offering just enough challenge to feel like one has achieved something without being too backbreaking or treacherous. Phone service was between spotty and non-existent, and many visitors considered that part of the appeal. It forced you to disconnect, to be present in nature in the moment, rather than checking your phone every few minutes. It offered an opportunity to relate to real people rather than to screens. And in the 21st century, that is something of a refreshing opportunity. For the Brink family, Arkansas represented a new beginning. They had just relocated from South Dakota, chasing opportunity and a fresh start. Clinton, 43 years old, had transferred with Prairie Farms Dairy and was scheduled to begin his new job as a milk delivery driver that Monday morning. Cristen, 41 years old, was a licensed nurse, planning to continue her medical career in Arkansas. They had just turned on the water at their new Prairie Grove home just 10 days earlier on July the 16th. Everything was starting to fall into place. It was a new adventure that their children were relishing. Their younger daughters were excited about the move, about exploring new places and making new friends before school started. And the Saturday hike was part of that exploration, a family adventure to discover what the local area around their new home had to offer. Cristen had packed snacks and water bottles. Clinton had checked the weather forecast and chosen an appropriate trail for 7 and 9-year-old kids. They were doing everything right, everything that normal families do. But just because you've done your due diligence, there are always other elements that are down to chance. And they had no way of knowing that someone else was in those woods that day. Someone who would transform their ordinary Saturday into tragedy, regardless of how much preparation they had done. So a call came into Arkansas State Police at 2:40 in the afternoon. Hikers had heard screaming in the woods, desperate and terrified. The sounds echoed through the trees in a way that made it impossible to pinpoint the exact location. But the fear and distress within the cries was unmistakable, and the hikers immediately called 911, well, as soon as they could get a signal. Park rangers responded within minutes, racing along the trails to the lower section of the Devil's Den loop. And what they encountered broke their hearts into pieces. Two little girls, 7 and 9 years old, stood on the trail surrounded by other hikers who had stopped to help. The children were visibly shaking, their faces streaked with tears, and they could barely speak through their sobs. When they finally managed to explain what had happened, the words came out in breathy pieces, the way trauma often manifests in children trying to process the unimaginable and unthinkable. They had been hiking with their parents. A man appeared. He had a knife. He attacked their father. Their mother pushed them away and told them to run. She yelled at them to keep running, to not look back. The girls obeyed, sprinting down the trail as fast as they possibly could. But after a minute or two, they stopped and realized that neither parent was following them. They were alone in this vast state park with no idea what had happened to their parents. One of the hikers who encountered the girls, and whose name has not been publicly released, made a decision that day that was brave but stupid. After helping get the children to safety, he turned around and went back. He followed the trail deeper into the woods, towards the danger, hoping that there might just be a chance to be able to help the girls' parents. But it was already too late. He found Clinton and Kristen Brink lying on the ground, both suffering from multiple stab wounds. They were barely clinging to life. The hiker tried desperately to get cell service, but the thick vegetation made it nearly impossible. He had to climb to higher ground, frantically checking his phone every couple of 100 meters, until mercifully he managed to find a signal and called 911. But by the time first responders reached the scene, it was too late. Clinton and Cristen were gone. What investigators found on that trail painted a picture of chaos, but also of desperate resistance. Both victims had been stabbed multiple times. The medical examiner would later document defensive wounds on their hands and arms. Clear evidence that both Clinton and Cristen had fought back fiercely. While it's easy to say they fought for their lives, I personally believe they fought for their daughters' lives, giving the little ones enough time to put distance between themselves and this unknown attacker. Enough distance to allow them to find other hikers. The scene suggested that Clinton had been targeted first. Cristen, according to what the girls told investigators, had managed to push her daughters away from the danger before returning to help her husband. That decision to run back towards a knife-wielding attacker rather than flee to safety spoke volumes about her character. She knew the risk. She chose love over survival. Detectives carefully processed the scene, collecting every piece of potential evidence. In the dirt and vegetation, they found a third set of DNA that did not match either victim. The attacker had likely been injured during the struggle. It was a crucial piece of evidence, but without someone to match it to, if they weren't already in the system, it would be meaningless. And lo and behold, when they ran the DNA through national and state databases, they got no hits. Whoever had done this had no prior record that would have included DNA collection. The investigation team spread out through the park, interviewing every visitor that they could find. Devil's Den had been busy that Saturday, filled with families and hikers alike enjoying the summer weather. Someone must have seen something. Someone must have noticed a person acting strangely, covered in blood as they would have to have been, fleeing the scene. And these interviews began to yield results, with multiple witnesses reporting seeing a man who matched a particular description. He was Caucasian, medium build, wearing a long-sleeved shirt with the sleeves rolled up, dark pants, a black baseball cap, sunglasses, and notably fingerless gloves. He also carried a black backpack. One hiker specifically remembered seeing this man with blood on his face, walking urgently away from the area where the Brinks were found. The clothing details were significant. Why would somebody be wearing fingerless gloves in the height of summer? That suggested someone perhaps trying to avoid leaving fingerprints while maintaining a level of dexterity. Sleeves rolled up rather than perhaps a tank top. That could suggest hiding arm injuries or tattoos. Sunglasses and a baseball cap. Classic disguise tactics. Taken all together, it seemed like not someone out for a casual hike, because on the surface he was dressed normally, but there were enough details to suggest that this person likely had more than just walking on their mind. Even more telling, witnesses reported seeing a man matching this description get into a black four-door sedan and leave the park quickly. The vehicle, possibly a sporty model, had its license plate partially covered with what appeared to be duct tape or electrical tape. Arkansas State Police released a composite sketch, as well as a photo taken by an alert hiker. Now, this photo showed the suspect from behind, standing among the trees with his backpack. While his face wasn't visible, the photo confirmed the witness descriptions of his build and clothing. For weeks, Devil's Den remained closed. The park that had been filled with families and laughter now stood eerily silent, cordoned off with police tape. Search teams combed every inch of the trails, looking for evidence, looking for clues, looking for anything that might lead them to the killer.
First at 10, a family hike turns into a nightmare as we're learning the gruesome double murder of a couple in Arkansas has Kern County ties. Meanwhile, investigators are learning why the couple was killed. Thanks for joining us. I'm Rochelle Murcia.
And I'm Michael Patterson. Arkansas State Police are currently searching for the person who killed a mother and father while they were hiking with their children.
Eyewitness News reporter Solomon Ludvanka has been diving into the background of the couple and is learning they once lived here in Kern County. Solomon?
Yeah, Michael Rochelle. In Arkansas's Devil's Den State Park on Saturday, Clinton Brink and his wife Cristen and their daughters were hiking when the couple was attacked. When police arrived, the daughters were safe, but Clinton and Cristen had died. According to public records, Clinton and Cristen attended high school here in Bakersfield.
Be advised, this just occurred at Devil's Den. Unit still en route, attacked a male and a female on Devil's Den hiking trail, and then took off in a small black sports car with tape over the plate.
That was police dispatch Saturday when Arkansas State Police say they were looking for a suspect that killed 43-year-old Clinton Brink and 41-year-old Cristen Brink, who had just moved to Prairie Grove from another state. Police initially received a call about a possible assault on the trail. When officers arrived, they heard screams in the distance. By the time they found the family, it was too late.
There are cop cars all around there, and we were a little concerned, and we went up to the visitor center because we were trying to get some merch, some stickers, and they said that they couldn't say anything, but that everything was closed for an emergency. We then went over by, it was a creek trail of some sort, and a park ranger said that they had an active scene, but she didn't say anything else.
According to Clinton's Facebook page, he and his wife lived in Bakersfield. People associated with the couple say that Clinton attended Foothill High School, while crosstown Kristen Trent played volleyball for Liberty High School. Trent went on to have a successful volleyball career at Cal State University, San Bernardino. According to records, she was named to first team all-conference in 2004 and holds records at the school.
I feel guilty, really, for being here, and it's like you want to have fun, but you don't want to have fun because you know what's happened. You just never know. You never know, and I think the hardest part is not having self-service.
Arkansas State Police have released a sketch of a person of interest in the murder. Investigators aren't saying how they were killed, but their deaths are being investigated as a double homicide. The couple's 7- and 9-year-old daughters were not hurt and are now with family members. And we're still learning more details on the couple and their ties to Bakersfield. Continue to stick with Eyewitness News as they come in. Reporting in studio, Saul Ledvinka, Eyewitness News.
All right, here we go. A Fox News alert. Police releasing a photo of a person of interest as they continue the search for the suspect accused of killing a mother and a father in front of their daughter in an Arkansas State park over the weekend. The family was hiking when the couple was attacked. Officers say they're looking for a white male with a medium-built body wearing a dark clothing and sunglasses right here. Investigators also seem to be focused on the Devil's Den Trail, which has since been closed off. The miles-long trail is one of 10 in the park. Here to discuss is retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent James Galliano. Brother, it's good to see you. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
Suspect versus person of interest, as law enforcement speak right there. They haven't been able to interview him, but they feel like this is their guy. Tell us why.
Yeah, so he's a person of interest, and that's kind of a nebulous term. He's not a suspect yet. He could be a material witness, may have some information. Law enforcement's got to be careful, Lawrence, though. They can't get so siloed or compartmentalized where they focus on this one lead. Keep in mind, Devil's Den, right? 2,200 acres of forest. It's in northwest Arkansas. Arkansas has like 8 states contiguous to it. This thing is going to expand well beyond the borders of that state.
So when there's a sketch like this, does this say they don't have any video of the suspect here or the person of interest here? This is probably a photo written out by the children or something like that. What does this tell us?
The police aren't telling us everything, and there's a reason for that. They may have some insight on where this person is, and they don't want to let that out so that the person may then be able to avoid scrutiny or avoid apprehension. Look, crowdsourcing, what we're doing right now, talking about it, this is very similar to the 2017 Delphi, Indiana murders of the 2 teenagers, and even 1996, the Olympic Park bomber, Eric Rudolph, took 8 years for them to find him in 2003. This is going to be a tough manhunt. You've got the rural part and the urban part.
But James, our technology is different now. We got license plate readers, we have facial identification. Although a lot of this stuff the feds have, local departments don't have as much. It's hard for criminals to get away with stuff these days because the technology is just way too good.
Yeah, there are no perfect crimes, Lawrence. You know that as well. And here's the thing. The digital exhaust is going to be key here. They have a vehicle that they're looking for. They don't have a license plate yet, but they're also going to be going through the Brinks, the 2 parents in their early 40s who were senselessly murdered in front of their 7- and 9-year-old daughters. They're going to be going through their iPads, their laptops, their PEDs, their personal electronic devices, their cell phones to figure out if there was any connection between this murder and this couple. Was it pre-planned and targeted, or was it random?
The public response was immediate and overwhelming. Tips poured in from across Arkansas and indeed from further beyond. People called from neighboring states, from as far away as Washington. Everybody had a theory. Everyone was desperate to help. The composite sketch appeared on news broadcasts and on social media, shared thousands upon thousands of times. Someone out there had to know this man. The fear was palpable. If this was a random attack, if a stranger could simply appear on a hiking trail and murder 2 people in broad daylight, then nowhere was safe. Families cancelled their planned camping trips. Hikers started carrying weapons. The sense of security that Devil's Den had always provided vanished overnight. Behind the scenes, investigators were piecing together a timeline. They collected surveillance footage from businesses near the park, along the routes leading away from Devil's Den. When they began analysing this footage, patterns would soon emerge. The black sedan appeared in multiple locations, and crucially, it had distinguishing features that made it identifiable. Detectives determined they were looking for a 2022 Kia Stinger, a sporty four-door sedan that fit the witness descriptions perfectly. More importantly, the vehicle's registration plate was partially obscured, again, just as the witnesses had reported. But now, thanks to dedicated work, they had a specific make and model to search for. The breakthrough came from an unexpected place. An alert officer spotted the black Kia Stinger parked outside a barber shop in Springdale, Arkansas, about 30 miles north of Devil's Den. It was Wednesday, July the 30th, just 5 days after the murders. The vehicle matched every detail from the witness reports and from the surveillance footage. And inside the barber shop sat a man getting his hair cut. What else would you do in a barber shop, I suppose? Officers immediately recognized him as matching the suspect description, but there was something more. He had visible injuries that appeared consistent with the kind of wounds someone might sustain in a violent struggle. At 1:18 p.m., surveillance cameras captured the black sedan pulling into the parking lot. Minutes later, the suspect entered the barber shop and sat down in the barber's chair. 12 minutes after that, before the haircut could be completed, police moved in. The man was placed in handcuffs, his hair still half finished. This man's name was Andrew James McGann. He was 28 years old, and his arrest would raise as many questions as it answered. On the surface and on paper, Andrew James McGann seemed like the last person who would be involved in a double homicide. He was a certified teacher with credentials in Arkansas, Texas, and Oklahoma. He had passed multiple background checks. He had no criminal record. Just weeks earlier, he had been hired by Springdale Public Schools to teach 5th grade starting that fall. He was educated, articulate, and by all accounts, otherwise unremarkable. The kind of person who blends into any crowd, who could be your neighbor, your colleague, or indeed your child's teacher. That ordinariness, that ability to pass through all of these screening processes designed to keep dangerous people away from children, would later become one of the most troubling aspects of this case. But as an aside, when I first saw pictures of this dude, I thought he looked like a thoroughly evil man. Like if the Grinch had a love child with a Neanderthal. But I guess that was just me in a judgy moment, I suppose. I digress. But as investigators dug deeper, cracks in McGann's facade began to appear. His teaching career, while brief, had been marked by concerning patterns. In the spring of 2023, he had been placed on administrative leave from an elementary school in Flower Mound, Texas. The reasons included classroom management issues, questionable professional judgment, and student favoritism. Parents had complained, colleagues had raised concerns, and under mounting pressure, McGann resigned. He resurfaced in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, where he taught 5th grade during the 2023-24 school year. And as before, he passed all required background checks. Again, he was placed in charge of children, as teachers tend to be. And again, he resigned, this time in May 2025, before moving to Arkansas. So the pattern was quite clear. McGann would get hired, problems would emerge, and he would resign, essentially, before he was pushed, and he would move on to a new district where his previous issues weren't adequately communicated or weren't considered disqualifying. It was a failure of the system that allowed him to continue accessing teaching positions despite red flags to a degree. But despite the worrying issues around his teaching, there was nothing suggesting anger or aggression. Nothing in his employment history suggested violence. The complaints were about professionalism and judgment, not aggression or threats. There was nothing that would have predicted what happened on that trail in Devil's Den. When police searched McGann's vehicle, they found blood inside. DNA testing confirmed it matched the blood found at the crime scene, blood that belonged to McGann himself, and confirmed he had been injured in the attack. The evidence was damning. His blood at the scene, his blood in his car, his vehicle caught on surveillance leaving the area, his clothing matching witness descriptions, his injuries consistent with a violent struggle. Faced with this overwhelming evidence, McGann allegedly confessed to officers. He admitted to stabbing Clinton and Cristen Brink to death on the trail. After lawyering up, however, he retracted his confession and pled not guilty to both counts of capital murder. Because, of course, he did. What do they always do? Washington County prosecuting attorney Brandon Carter made it clear from the outset his office would seek the death penalty. The brutality of the crime, the randomness of the attack, the fact that 2 young children were left orphaned, all of these factors weighed in favor of the most severe punishment available under Arkansas law. But no one seems to have any idea why McGann would have snapped in the way that he did.
Darren, NYPD, former NYPD Lieutenant Darren Porcher. Darren, great to have you on the show. It's interesting because Chandler kind of laid it out there for us. This guy was hurt, so he left DNA on the scene. So during the fight with either the father or the mother, he somehow got hurt. We know they were stabbed to death. They found DNA. It matched the scene. The suspect was injured. He admitted that he committed the crime. The question is why, and police had this to say. I found it interesting. Watch.
So the information that we have is that the husband was attacked first. The mother did not return all the way to the car with the kids. We believe that the mother took them to safety, and then returned to help her husband.
They absolutely protected those girls to their fullest extent, to the point that it cost them their lives.
The big mystery here is, why was the attack in the first place? I mean, you heard them say they protected their girls with their lives, and they did. This is the same guy who was at a fifth grade a school teaching, and he was accused of inappropriate behavior. You're wondering, was he going after the girls, Darren? What was happening out in the middle of the wilderness?
From the prosecutor's perspective, they don't have to prove motive, but at the same token, we want to know, what is the why? And this is where we're going to look to interviews with the children, because the kids are alive. Right. Granted, they're both under the age of 12 years old, but at the same token, they can give significant information as to what happened. In addition to that, we already have this person saying that, yes, I did do it, which is great. Right. But let's circle back to that school district that he was removed from. He basically stepped down based on this inappropriate behavior. Let's interview those kids there. Let's interview the teachers. Let's interview people that had an interaction with this individual, so we can collaborate a series of statements to find out, what is this guy's way of doing business? Yeah. So when we speak to what is his, we know what his MO was because this was a stabbing, but when we want to find out what the motive is, it's going to be a collaborative approach to get that info.
And one of the students at the school that he taught at, the mother spoke out, and she said the following here. Listen to this.
That's when he opened up and told me that him and several other classmates had noticed Mr. McGann just being very touchy and weird with the girls in the class, that sometimes they would go out for recess and he would keep a girl back just one-on-one.
Which is odd. And that's why they kind of investigate him for this. And which brings us back to the crime scene, is why do you go after a family in the middle of nowhere unless maybe the young girls are the target? I mean, I know we're a long way from getting there, but it seems like, it makes sense. It kind of fits with the pattern.
It does run consistent with that, but the police are saying that the girls were not the target. This is a random attack. So this just could have been by happenstance that the two parties interacted, and that's when it manifested into the death of the two parents. But all evidence points to his background in having this inappropriate conduct with young girls, that it's more likely that this was his agenda.
Yeah. It's funny, Chandler, because, we think, that's all going to come out in court. Maybe not.
It may not.
That's the whole thing. He cuts a plea. And
that's right. In this case, with the evidence, the amount of evidence they have against him, it would be unsurprising if he does plead guilty eventually to this, unless his team wants to fight his mental capacity or plead insanity for some reason, whatever, it may move forward. But that's on down the line here. Darren makes some really good points about the targets here, and that information likely, we don't have to prove a motive as prosecutor, so that really wouldn't be a part of the case unless he did this before previously, but he has no criminal history whatsoever.
But more than this, there were enough aspects to his outfit that day, along with the disfigured car registration plate, to suggest a level of premeditation. McGann had no known connection to the Brink family. They had never met. They didn't live in the same town, did not frequent the same places, had no mutual friends or acquaintances. The attack appeared to be entirely random. A family in the wrong place at the wrong time, crossing paths with someone who decided, for reasons known only to himself, to commit murder. Was it a robbery attempt gone wrong? If so, why attack so ragefully and fiercely? Why not simply just demand valuables and flee? Was it something darker, a fantasy of violence that McGann had been harboring and finally acted upon? Did the isolation of the trail and the vulnerability of the family trigger something in him? As of now, in November 2025, authorities admit they still don't have a clear motive.
I want to thank the public for providing images and videos from cell phones, home, and business security footage that directly advanced this investigation. We'll talk a little bit more about how that played out, but the information that was put out and the request for information back from the public directly resulted in this person being brought into custody. It allowed our investigators a starting point to move forward and to use their skills that they've developed over the years and their experience to bring this person into custody. We had about 500 tips that came in through our phone lines, social media. Not only were there a lot of tips that came in, and we're very thankful for that, but there's a lot of people that have to field those tips. And it's not all badge-wearing, gun-toting members of the state police or Department of Public Safety. We had a lot of civilian personnel that were tasked with that. There was a lot of time and energy spent on triaging those tips and making sure they went to the right people. And so we owe a great gratitude for that support staff that helped with this as well. Although everyone is innocent until proven guilty, we did confirm this morning that our suspect's DNA has been a positive match to the DNA that we suspected to belong to our suspect at the scene. During an interview with investigators, the suspect indicated that he did commit these murders. We executed a search warrant at his residence. There were articles found there that are consistent with being involved in this particular crime. And I will let Major Rhodes speak more of that or more to those details. We do believe he acted alone. We have absolutely no reason to believe that there's anyone else involved, and we do not anticipate any future arrest or any other arrest beyond this suspect.
McGann, through his attorney, has remained silent on the matter. Whatever drove him to attack the Brinks that day remains firmly lodged in his mind. And the lack of motive makes the tragedy even more frustrating for those seeking to understand it. If there were a reason, however twisted, it might provide some framework for understanding. But random violence without purpose or provocation, goes against our needs to make sense of the world. It suggests that safety is an illusion, that danger can come from nowhere, that precautions and good judgment aren't always enough. The Brink daughters are now being raised by relatives. They are surrounded by love and support, by family determined to help them heal from the kind of trauma that no child should ever experience. They will grow up remembering their parents as heroes, as the people who gave their lives so their daughters could survive. In the immediate aftermath of the murders, the community response was extraordinary. A GoFundMe campaign launched by a cousin of the family raised more than $80,000 to cover funeral costs and support the future of the girls. Vigils were held in Prairie Grove and across northwest Arkansas. Strangers who had never met the Brinks found themselves in tears, lighting candles, praying for two little girls who had lost everything. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders called the family personally to express her condolences, with her saying, "One of the worst experiences that certainly I've ever had was making a phone call to the Brink family. Nothing like that should ever have taken place." Devil's Den State Park has since reopened, but people say that it feels different now. The trails are still beautiful, the limestone formation still ancient and majestic, the caves still cool when the weather is warm. But there's a shadow hanging over it, a knowledge that once known cannot be unlearned. 2 good people died here, murdered by a stranger, for no reason that anyone can explain. Some locals actively avoid the park now. Others return deliberately to not let fear win, determined to reclaim the sanctuary that was stolen from them. They hike with bear spray on their belts and phones charged fully, even though they know that cell service can be unreliable. They watch other hikers more carefully, trust a little less freely. The Devil's Den Trail, where the Brinks died, remains open. Small memorials sometimes appear near the trailhead. Flowers, stuffed animals, handwritten notes to 2 people most visitors never knew, but feel connected to through shared grief. The notes often mention the daughters expressing hope that they're doing okay. Promise that their parents will not be forgotten. McGann remains in custody, held without bond as he awaits trial. The evidence against him is overwhelming. His DNA at the scene, eyewitness descriptions matching his appearance, surveillance footage of his vehicle, his alleged confession. His defense team has signaled they will argue for his innocence despite the retracted confession. The trial will likely not occur for months, possibly even years. Arkansas's criminal justice system has a tendency to move slowly, especially in capital cases where the death penalty is on the table. Every motion must be carefully considered, every piece of evidence meticulously examined, every procedural safeguard observed. The process is designed to be thorough, to minimize the risk of executing an innocent person. For the Brink family, that wait for justice is agonizing. They want closure. They want accountability. They want McGann to face the full consequences of what he did on that trail. But mostly, they want their loved ones back, and that's the one thing that no trial could ever provide. In the months since McGann's arrest, questions have been raised about how he was able to continue obtaining teaching positions despite the red flags in his employment history. The Louisville Independent School District in Texas, where McGann worked before Oklahoma, released a statement noting that while they found no evidence of inappropriate behavior with students, he had been placed on leave for concerns related to classroom management, professional judgment, and student favoritism. These issues led to his resignation, but they didn't prevent him from being hired soon after in Oklahoma. And when he resigned from Oklahoma and applied in Arkansas, those previous concerns were apparently not sufficient to disqualify him. He passed background checks, because he had no criminal record. The professional concerns, the pattern of short tenures and unexplained departures weren't flagged as disqualifying. And this is perhaps a systemic problem that extends far beyond this one case. Teachers who resign in one district can often move to another without their full employment history following them. Schools are sometimes hesitant to provide negative references for fear of legal liability. Background checks focus on criminal history, not professional competence or concerning behavioral patterns. The result is a system where individuals like McGann can slip through the cracks, moving from district to district, always staying a step ahead of the consequences of their actions. In this case, the consequences of that failure weren't just professional misconduct, though. They were murder. Flaws with the system need to be corrected and tightened. But I fail to see how teacher screening could have prevented the tragedy that happened in that state park. That said, any changes that seek to protect the welfare of children have to be seen as good. And that was a recent case of a crime that could not have been predicted. Clinton and Cristen Brink had done all of the possible preparation they could ahead of a day's hiking, but they had no way of knowing that they would cross paths with a man set on causing panic and destruction for reasons known only to himself. But their actions in ensuring their little girls had time to run away were incredible in their bravery. Selflessness in parents is often talked about, but I've scarcely seen it so clearly shown in practice, where personal safety is put aside to protect the children too little to defend themselves. Their legacy is their surviving children, their actions allowing those children the chance to grow up. The greatest tribute I can make to them is in passing on the details of their joint obituary, where their value is written by family and friends, and I will quote as follows. It is with both profound sorrow and deep admiration that we announce the passing of Clinton David Brink and Cristen Amanda Brink, devoted husband and wife, who entered into eternity together on July the 26th, 2025. Their lives were a testament to unwavering love, selfless devotion, and tireless service to others. Clinton and Cristen shared a marriage rooted in faith, laughter, and adventure. Whether hiking as a family, kayaking, or spending days at theme parks with their daughters, they lived for the simple joys that built lasting memories. They were each other's best friend, biggest cheerleader, and constant teammate, truly one in heart and purpose. They were fiercely loyal to each other, to their families, and their Saviour, Jesus Christ. Clinton David Brink, born June the 14th, 1982, had a heart that beat for others. A certified nursing assistant and delivery driver, Clinton was beloved by all who met him. His patients and co-workers knew him as kind, gentle, and unfailingly dependable. His family knew him as the man who made them laugh, comforted them with strength and humility, and loved them without condition. He often apologized, even when it wasn't needed, because peace and understanding were more important to him than pride. Clinton's greatest achievement, by far, was being a loving husband and proud father to his 3 daughters. He was recently honored as Employee of the Month as a CNA, a reflection of his quiet excellence and care for others. Cristen Amanda Brink, née Trent, born June the 11th, 1984, was a vibrant and compassionate soul. She was a godly woman of principle and lived her faith to others. A registered nurse with both a nursing and maths degrees, Cristen blended intelligence with empathy in every facet of her life. Her patients saw her as a beacon of care, and her family knew her as the strong, funny, and deeply loving woman who always showed up for them. An awarded volleyball player through her high school, college, and professionally, Cristen carried the same energy and resilience into motherhood, friendships, and marriage. She had a passion for singing. Crocheting, and needlepoint crafting. More than anything, she delighted in her family. Her husband and 3 daughters were her world. She loved her parents and brothers and brought them joy. They leave behind their daughters, Brianna Brink Hall, 17 years old, and her husband, Landon Hall, 18 years old, Ariana Brink, 9 years old, and Christina Brink, 7 years old, each a reflection of their parents' courage, character, and love. Clinton and Cristen were joyfully awaiting the birth of their first grandchild, embracing the new chapter of being young grandparents with open hearts and eager anticipation. Clinton is also survived by his mother, Carrie Osgood, father David Brink, sister Katrina Hutchins, brother Mike Osgood, and many beloved nieces and nephews. He is preceded in death by his stepfather, Glenn Osgood. Cristen is also survived by her mother, Catalina Trent, father Charles Trent, brother Daniel, David, and Derek, as well as many beloved nieces and nephews. Cristen's loving presence, alongside Clinton's steady warmth, formed the heart of their home, a place of welcome, laughter, and deep connection. This video is dedicated to these 2 remarkable people, and I send love and condolences to their friends and family. Thank you for watching another episode of Murder of Crows. Please drop a like and subscribe below if you have any thoughts on this case, and subscribe if you haven't yet. But with that said, I'm Steve. This fluffball, oh you soppy bugger, is Samson, and we We'll see you when we see you.
Say that you're ready.